at our ambiguous case, and we looked kind of at our first two examples. One of them was what happens when we have basically a side length that is too short to where we get no solution. The second example is what happened when basically our side length is just long enough that we actually get two solutions. And then today we're going to look at what happens when we only get one solution. Okay? But remember, like in my instructions, and I think someone on your homework, it's not going to say like the directions to here, where it's like one solution, no solution. So basically we have to figure out how we only know that there's one solution. So we're going to move forward with the problem like there's two solutions until we run into a problem. And we will if there's only one solution. So what do we want to do first? Draw a triangle is helpful. So A is 42, little a is 22, and little b is 12. So what do we have to solve for first? Big B, okay? And we have to use which other one? Big A and little a. That's the only ones I have enough information on. So we are looking for big B. That has to be over little b. I'm setting it equal to my information with A. I'm starting with my signs on top because remember I can always flip it if I want to flip it both sides. And since we're solving for big B this time, it's helpful to go ahead and start with it on top. So what do we want to do? And then? Agree. Now remember, here is where we would run into issues if we had no solution, right? We would get a domain error in our calculator. But if we type this into our calculator, what do we get? Point what? 4. Oh, 4. I believe it's 4, 0, 6. Yes? So we know there at least has to be one solution because we didn't get a domain error. Agreed? Now this angle is what? Acute. Which remember that means that our second option for B has to be obtuse. So that's where we take 180. And we're going to subtract that B value. And we should get 158.594. So far we're going to move forward like we have two solutions. Yes, no, maybe. Okay, so then what's the next thing that's pretty easy for me to find? C. Okay, big C. So remember, now that I have two of my angles, we can take 180 and subtract A and subtract B. And again, I'm using that first B value. So 180 minus 42 minus 21.406. And we get 116. right there. Negative 20 point what? Can I have a negative angle in a triangle? No. So this is what tells me that I only have one solution, because basically my big B had to be too big or too small in order for us to have a second option. Yes, only.
So then your answer is only B, right?
So right now I have big C and we have big B. So then our last step would be to solve for little c if we wanted to solve, right? So that's just where we have the c divided by sine of 116. And then you could either use either one of those. But we've done a lot of practice with that. I mostly wanted us to see what happens when we don't get a second answer and like why we run into issues. Yes, only. Does that make sense? What questions do you have? Alright. That's where we're gonna stop. So that is law of sines. Tomorrow we're gonna be looking at our law of cosines next.